In this video, I'm going to show you how to answer common job interview questions, and I'm going to show you how to do it using unique answers tailored to you that no one would be able to steal and use. I want you to keep one thing in mind as we go through these questions, and it's this highlighted section here, where it says you're going to give a unique answer that no one can use but you. That's my promise to you. So let's start going through this. So the first thing is you want to make a good first impression, okay? When you're going on interviews, it's that first impression, even with your resume. Like that first impression causes the company to call you. That first impression, hearing your voice over the phone, seeing your face through video, or seeing you in person, okay, that's so important. You don't get a second chance to make a first impression. The other thing is, like I said, it doesn't matter if it's in person or virtual, okay, it does not matter. One shot, you only get one shot at this, okay, you can't fail. And then the other thing I want you to focus on is what I'm showing you is the way that I've taught others to answer job interview questions. There are many ways to do this, many ways. I stick with this method simply because I found it to be the most effective out of all of the ones that I've tried. And when I find something that works better, I'm going to use it. But for right now, what I'm showing you has been working, okay? So, now, this is a pet peeve of mine, so, if I get a little animated, you're going to know why. You need to be unique and not sound and look like everyone else. I think this is the biggest problem I see, because people will go online, they will find answers to questions, they will take it verbatim, and then they will go out and use it as if it's theirs. And they don't tweak it to fit them. And I have a really big problem with that, because if you're interviewing and you have 3, 4, 5 people saying pretty much the same thing, then you don't stand out and you don't look good. You don't sound good. It's horrible. I'm just letting you know. I've been in that position where I've interviewed people and I knew, yep, they got this online. I didn't hire them. I did not pick them. Now, as I promised you, you're going to create your own answers to the interview questions. Now, are there generic answers you can use? Yes, of course you can. Will that impress the employer? No, not necessarily. No, it won't. Like I said, you're going to be looking like and sounding like everyone else. This is a 3-part series to this, okay? And as we go through the first 5 questions, and then the second part is another 5 questions, and then the final part are 4 questions, you're going to start to realize you feel more comfortable interviewing, and that's going to increase your confidence. Expect to be nervous. That's normal. But when I show you how to answer these questions, it's going to start to make sense to you, because a lot of times you don't know what to say. So I'm going to give you a starting point. And once you have that starting point, I'm going to show you how you just wrap what you bring to the table around it, so you can demonstrate how good you are to the employer. So we get to this first question, which I know is the one you can't stand. Tell me about yourself. So I'm going to show you how you answer it. I'm going to give you the framework for answering this, and then I'm going to give you an example. So what I always tell people is, this is the time when you're the most nervous. This is the time where you really don't know what to say. And what I want you to focus on is, where did you work? Okay. How long did you work there? What was your job title? And just give me a brief description of what you did. Now, on the surface, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, I just sent you my resume. You know this already. Here's the problem most people have. That very first question, you don't know what to say. Because in your brain, and I just verbally said it, you're thinking you have my resume. You know this stuff already. Yes, they do. But if you get someone who's, how could I say, very good at interviewing, they won't even look at your resume. They might ask you the question, so tell me something about yourself that's not on your resume. Don't worry about that question. We'll get to that in future videos. But for this one, it's just a simple, tell me about yourself. Where did you work? How long did you work there? What was your job title? And a brief description of what you did. So now let me give you an example so you can see what this looks like. So simple example. I worked at the Gap for 3 years as a stock clerk, organized the back area, which helped the company increase sales by 20% within 60 days and maintained it for 2.5 years. So let's stop for a second. What do you notice about this example? Come on. What do you notice? Did you say numbers? Absolutely. It tells a story using numbers. So here's the catch. How do you get these numbers? You need to know the impact you're having on the bottom line for the company. Right now, I can guarantee you just say, wait a minute, I don't know. Yes, you do. No. You actually do know. The problem is you never took the time to think this way. So if you need help figuring this out, post a comment below. Tell me the job you had. Just tell me the job title. Just tell me the job title. Tell me the type of company. Don't even put the name. Tell me how long you've been there. And I can point you in the right direction on how to quantify, how to figure out what your numbers are. Okay? So I want you to really think about this example, because you're going to find that many of the videos you listen to online are not specific. They're very general. And remember, my promise to you was these answers are going to be tailored to you, and no one will be able to use them. Want to know why? Because who has 3 years experience at the Gap as a stock clerk, who increased sales by 20% within the same time frame of 60 days and maintained it for 2.5 years? That is so specific that no one can say that but you. Do you understand what I'm trying to get you to do here? Okay? I'm not trying to get you to sound smart. Heck, I'm not even trying to get you to look smart. I just want you to tell your story in such a way that the numbers, the content, what you provide speaks for you. And there's a process to this, so don't worry about it. So now, once you give an answer like that, the interviewer would generally and usually ask you, how did you do that? Then you could say something like, oh, it's easy. I moved the products that were selling toward the front and the items that wasn't selling to the back. And then it decreased the time to look for hot selling items. And as a result, we sold more. So pretty simple, right? And you're thinking, wait a minute, it can't be that simple. Think about this for a second. In the retail industry, right? Especially in stores, what do they normally do with milk? The milk that's expiring sooner, they put it to the front so it can sell. The milk that's expiring later, they put it to the back. Why? Because it has more time to sell. Look at retail stores, clothing. The items that are selling are positioned where the volume of traffic comes in. The items that are not selling are pushed out in the corners. Why? Because they're not selling. Why are you going to give them prime real estate when they're not selling? So you making a statement like this says you understand the importance of positioning products to sell. So how do you get your numbers? You know, like if you're working in the stock, you know how many items generally are going out the door because of what you did by placing them closer to the front. You know, just count them up, add them up. That's the value. If you know you have 200 in stock And now because you made the shift to move it up to the front of the stock area, that you now have 100 after 3 days, and it took you maybe a month or two to sell 100, then you know your change produced a result, a different result, an increase in something. You can no longer just give general answers to interview questions. That's not going to cut it anymore. It's too much competition out there. You need to be very specific in what you did and how did that impact the bottom line, and how long did it impact the bottom line? How long did it take you? See, all of those things are not incorporating numbers. And this is just the first question. And I'm taking my time because I really want to make sure you get this. I don't want you going and watching videos and getting general answers. I need to get very specific with your answers based on your experience. All right, now. So here's the second question. What have you been doing since? Ooh, this is a tough question, especially if you have a gap on your resume. So the one thing you want to do is you want to show that you've been doing something. Because if you have nothing to say and all you've done was stay home and watch TV, that's not good. That's not good at all. So if you have a gap, any gap whatsoever, you better be prepared to answer this question. So let's see what you can say. What are some good answers you can say? Okay. You can say, I was in school. If you're in college, that's fine. It's not a problem. I was in training. That's fine. I was upgrading my skills online. Okay. Well, what resources were you using? What were you learning online? Do you have a portfolio of that? Maybe you was volunteering at a nursing home as a recreational aide, or maybe you was volunteering in general. Where was it? And watch this. If you did volunteer, there is someone who supervised you. That someone is now a reference. That someone could attest to, one, you volunteering, and two, your work ethic. So that's important. Maybe you was taking care of an elderly family member or just a family member. That's something you can also take into consideration as well. And look, I can tell you in 2010, for about 4 months, I believe it was, 4.5 months, I stopped working. I literally left the job. I liked that job, but I left it, stayed home, took care of my son. And about 4 months later, I got a temp job. And then a month after that, I got a full-time job. And each time they asked me, so what have you been doing since? I said, I stay home and take care of my son. And once I found a good daycare for him, got him back into daycare, and here I am. I'm back at work. And guess what? It didn't hurt me in any way whatsoever. Why? Because I addressed what I did. Now, here's the part that I did extra during that time. I taught myself how to develop e-commerce sites using Magento back then. And so it was, that thing is a beast. But I taught myself how to use it. And I was really good at it. Made some nice money when I was out of work too. But that's another story. So you can also say, I was the house manager supervising children in home activities. I'll explain that in a minute. I was coaching. What if he was coaching sports? Okay, put that down. I was pregnant. I had a baby. That's fine. That's not an issue. Okay, anything is better than nothing. So now let me explain this house manager phrase to you because this is important. So generally when people are home with the kids, they say, I was a housewife, I was a homemaker, I was a babysitter, a child care provider, stay-at-home mom. Like they give those terms, which is nothing wrong with the terms. The thing you have to remember is how you phrase and frame your experience is going to determine how people receive it. So I got into the habit of showing people, look, I understand you did all of that, but there is an official job title out there that does exactly what you just said, and it's called the house manager. And they was like, what do you mean house manager? I'm like, if you go to a residential treatment facility, if you go to group homes or whatever, there is a house manager. There is a person who runs the house. They manage the house. I said, as someone who stays home with the kids, you're the house manager. So I always recommended look up the role. You do the same thing. Go to a job site, Indeed, Simply Hire, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, I don't care. Look up house manager, see the responsibilities, and then that's someone that you did. If you did that, if you stayed home for a certain amount of time, you was the house manager. What did that house manager do? Is it something you did when you stayed home? Okay, then you need to upgrade your resume and stop using terms babysitter, daycare provider, stay-at-home mom, homemaker, and put house manager, because you managed the house and everything pertaining to that house. So how you phrase it and how you frame it is critical. It's going to determine how people receive it. I'm not going to say that again, okay? Replay. Replay this if you have to. So now, we get to the third one. Why should we hire you? This is another question people can't stand. Oh my goodness. But the problem with this question is you don't have answers to the questions I'm about to show you. And you have to spend some time getting these answers. You're like, wait a minute, hold time out. I thought you said you was going to help me come up with the answer that nobody can use. Yeah, but you have to answer these questions to get the answer. Look at this. What about the job made you apply, right? So you're applying to a job. What about the job made you apply? What grabbed your attention? And don't tell me the money. Because if you want to volunteer, go volunteer. They already know you're coming for the money. So don't say the money. But what is it? What is it that you read that caught your attention? Make a note of that. Write that down. What successes, achievements, and what experience do you possess that would help you excel in that job? See, you got to take note of what you bring to the table. We're going to address that in a minute, but you have to know what you're bringing. And then what makes you different? What makes you better? What makes you special from other applicants? Like, these are simple questions, but you need the answers to them. What makes you different? What makes you special? What makes you better? Literally, what specifically make you better? Like, for me, I would always tell people, besides the fact that I'm a quick learner, you could put me in any environment and I'll quickly adapt and excel. So I got one job. They hired me. They told me, okay, report here. That Friday before I was supposed to start on that Monday, I just followed up, checking in, make sure this is where I'm going. They said, no, you're going to another location, which was like an hour away from where I live. And I had to cross a bridge to get there. I was in New York City at the time. And I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I have to go way out there? And then when I got there, they just threw me in a classroom, no material, and was like, make it happen. And that's what I did. I made it happen. So what I said, I was able to live up to. So whatever your answer is to these questions, make sure you can live up to it. Make sure you can deliver. Okay? Why do you want this job? So, in order to answer this, you got to provide an answer that covers all of the areas I'm about to reveal to you. Okay, I'm going to put them up for you. Position. How do you fit into that role? How do you fit into that role? Company. What do you actually know about them? Competition. What do you know about the competitors? And industry. What do you know about the industry? Now, I'm going to pause here because this is 4 critical areas that I find people really don't talk about. Well, let me be very nice here. They tell you to do your research. That's what they do. They tell you to do your research. I'm telling you, do your research, but I'm being very specific and know the position, know the job, know the company, know the competition, and then know the industry. Now you're like, well, why do I have to go through all of these steps? Here's mistake number 1. Let me just give you this biggest mistake you might be making. You're applying to jobs because you need a paycheck, and you're not really focusing your efforts. Why is that an issue? Because you're not focused, you're all over the place. So let's just say, for example, you said you wanted to become a trainer, right? And let's just say, for example, you decided I'm going to become a trainer working in nonprofits or not-for-profits. Okay, fine. So here's what we know right now. We know the title, we know the position, and we know the industry. So we got 2 of these knocked out. Now we got to find a company that's hiring, and then we got to identify who are the competitors. You say, but that don't make any sense. No, wait, we're getting there. Hold on. Let's say you get a job interview and they start interviewing you, and they're interviewing me, and they ask you the question, why do you want this job? And you start telling them, oh man, I've been training people for as long as I can remember, whether it was coaching them in sports, whether it's helping them to learn computer basics. I just love helping people and training people. And I just know because of that, I want to work in the nonprofit industry to help people who don't have the skills and knowledge that I have. And I noticed in this industry, there's only 4 or 5 main players, which is, you name the companies, right? And out of all the companies that I researched, you're the company that I want to work for because. So I covered all of them, the job, the company, the competition, the industry. I covered all of them. Very generic, I just said, but I covered all of them. Now, let's say that I follow behind you in an interview and I just talk about the job and I just talk about the company. What am I missing? I'm missing the competition and I'm missing the industry. You say, well, why is that important? Because it shows I did my homework. It shows I'm interested in the role. That's what it shows. If we're in the Wild Wild West and we both about to have a shootout and we go back to back and we take 10 paces and turn around and shoot, you have 4 bullets. Why? Because you know the position, you know the company, you know the competition, you know the industry. I got 2 bullets. I know the position, I know the company. Who do you think is going to win that one? You are. You have more bullets. So when you go on these job interviews, and if you're more prepared than everyone else, then guess what? You look better. You sound better. You're different. You're very different. So now let's go on. So why do you want this job? Now you take all of that information and you start to connect your experience, your knowledge, your training, your education, your technical abilities, etc., and how you can help the company reach its goals. The one thing you have to understand, and this is something that irritates me to my core because not enough people actually say this to you. You have to always keep in mind that the employer needs to know how they will benefit from hiring you. This is going to hurt, but I'm going to say it. Stop relying on your education only. I get it. If you have a degree, you earned it. Congratulations. I know you earned it. The problem is someone else has that same degree. You're no better than them. So what makes you special? What makes you different? You see what I'm doing, right? I'm going back to those questions. What about your experience? What about your knowledge? What about your training and certification? What about your technical abilities? What about you? Okay? What are you bringing to the table that will benefit the employer? That is so critical to know. And hey, if you don't know it right now, it's okay. It's okay. Because you got to take time to learn this. Okay? I'm not trying to rush through this. I need you to understand this process. You're probably thinking, man, this is a lot of work. Initially, it is. No, it is. It is. But remember, if you narrow it down to 1 or 2 roles, 1 or 2 industries, you learn the role, you learn the job, you learn the company, you learn the competition, you learn the industry. Guess what? A new role, right? In the same industry with the same competitors, it's easy to learn about the company. You're not jumping around. You need to be consistent and you need to be focused. You need to be. This is why it's so difficult for you to answer these questions, because you're all over the place. Focus your efforts and you'll get better results. Trust me on this. Trust me on this. So now, what do you know about us? So, do not focus on their history. Okay? Briefly, 5 seconds. Mention how they got started. Focus on where they are, where they're going, how they compare to their competitors. And this comes up again and again. News releases, press releases, in the news, somewhere on their website, they should have a section like this. This is the section you want to go into, not the about page. Please leave that alone. Everybody's going to go to the about page and regurgitate what's there. You don't do that. News release, press release, in the news. And you mention, incorporate into your answers what they're doing, where they're going, new software, anything, new programs, new funding, whatever it is, you incorporate that into your answer. Know the job, know the company, know the competition, know the industry. You incorporate all that information. Then you mention industry obstacles, problems that everyone would have to deal with now and in the future. One, it shows you're looking ahead, but two, it's showing you're paying attention to industry trends. That's so important. Trust me on this. Take your time and to really understand what I'm trying to get across to you. The job, the company, the industry, the competition. Pay attention. So important. So the previous question, why do you want this job, ties nicely into this question. Why? Because you did the research already. You gather your intelligence and now you're able to use it throughout the interview. That is so important. Preparation is the key to get the job offer. If you prepare like I'm asking you to prepare, and you do your best, if someone gets that job, man, they are awesome. They deserve to get it. They deserve it because they earned it. They beat you when you prepared. And you fail miserably when you are unprepared. Notice I say fail miserably, meaning you didn't even have a chance. But guess what? If you do well, then you get to the next round of interviews. And I'm going to share this with you, and then we're going to end this portion for the first segment. And then you can watch the other 5 questions for the next segment. I went on an interview. I can't remember the year, but I went on an interview. And I had, 6 interviews. And I wasn't even supposed to be considered for the role. But I had 6 interviews. And after I think the second interview, they called me back and I had 4 more in one day. And I made it to the final round, but somebody got picked. And I remember my wife was upset. I'm like, why are you upset? She said, oh man, you could have had that job. I said, I had 0 experience for that job. I interviewed my butt off. I made it to the final round. I'm very proud of myself because it just showed that everything I was showing people way back then, that was a while ago, many moons ago, that it worked. Like, I don't tell you stuff that I haven't applied myself. I'm always applying these strategies that I'm telling you. I mean, it's second nature to me now. But my point is, if you do everything you're supposed to do and you do not get the job, don't get upset. Please do not get upset. I want you to look at how far you got in the process. And always remember, if somebody else got that job, my goodness, they had to be freaking awesome to beat you the way you prepared. And be happy for that because you got that much closer. And trust me, I got to the final round 3, 4, 5 times. Never got the job. But in the end, those weren't the jobs I was supposed to have. Looking back, I mean, at the time I wasn't upset. But now looking back, I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I didn't take those jobs. So be careful when you're applying for jobs because it may not be the job you actually want to get. Okay, so just be careful. Now, in the next part 2 of this, We're going to answer 5 more questions. So let me give you some action steps. Okay, I want to give you some action steps now. I want you to go and rewatch this. I want you to write down the questions. And I want you to start asking yourself, tell me about yourself. Okay, where did you work? How long did you work there? What was the job title? Brief description. Okay, go and start writing it down. Start writing it down. Because initially, it's going to be hard for you. For each question, just write down your initial answer. And then go to each slide and go, okay, watch that portion. And go, okay, maybe I should word it this way. Because remember, how you frame it and the words you use determine how someone's going to receive it. So that's important. That's all you have to do. Each question, write your answer down. If you have any questions whatsoever, you get stuck, just post your question below. Subscribe, like. I'm always here to help. But remember, my goal is to help you to come up with answers to job interview questions that are unique to you, that no one would be able to steal and use. That's my promise to you. And so far, I've delivered on that in the first 5 questions. See you in the next video.